The goal of it was always, hey, I want to bring people together, I want to celebrate them, I want to normalize the marginalized.
Welcome to the latest instalment of the Positive Disruptor, where I'll be talking to business leaders and founders who are transforming their sector for the better. Today, joining me all the way from Los Angeles is Sharon Chuter, whose beauty brand, UOMA, is rewriting the rules of inclusivity and diversity. She was also named by Refinery 29 as Beauty Innovator of the Year in 2019. She's also been listed on WWD's list of top 50 executives who are shaping the future of the beauty industry. Well, thank you so much, Sharon, for joining me today. I should say good morning to you, given you are in Los Angeles.
Good morning.
I'd love to read an extract from your website, because it really struck me actually about the language you use in your business. At UOMA, we are empowered tribe. Our race is human, our people are free. Our language is colour. I would love for you to talk a little bit about the business that you've built and a little bit about, the way you talk about the business and the language you're using is just so unique.
Yes. No, I think for me, when I set out to create UOMA Beauty, I wasn't setting out to create a business, right? I wanted to create a movement. It's so interesting because one of the things I used to always have written down was, do not start a business, start a movement is the best kind of business, right? And it's sort of crazy. There's a dichotomy to it, but it's just what it is, right? So I think for me, my motivation to go and set up this brand wasn't really, oh my God, I need to get richer, oh, look at me, I'm not getting paid enough at work, or I'm pissed off at my boss. It was really trying to fight, for equality. That was really my beef. I was like, beauty is too monolithic. It has only one definition of when I say beauty, I'm talking about the beauty industry. So it's really important for that context. I use that word beauty a lot. But the beauty industry is quite monolithic. One definition of beauty and beautiful. And for me, being born, I've always been a misfit, I've always been a weirdo. It really hit me because I personally understood what it feels like to be left out and the consequences that it has to the rest of your life, especially for me as a Black woman or any person of color will relate to that as well. So for me, creating this brand, I know what it felt like to be left out because of the color of my skin. On so many levels, many people can relate to the feeling of being left out, especially in the beauty industry and the beauty conversation. Whether it's, there was a time it was only blonde hair, blue eyes that was considered beautiful. So if you even were brunette with brown eyes, bye, come back another day, right? So a lot of people can relate to feeling left out, whether it's because of who you love, your gender, the size of your body, right? And so when I was going out to set up UOMA Beauty, I was setting up a movement of self-love. I would set up a movement where every single person could come in and feel welcome, where it was like, the weirder the better, the more different the better. It was literally a home for the misfits. It was a home where you can come in and truly be your authentic self. Through this brand, it's really this really rebellious, self-loving tribe that it's all about bringing people together, and allowing people and enabling people to be their authentic self. And that's why we use things like our race is human, because the idea of race is man-made. There is only one race, and it's the human race. That's it,
I have to say, I don't think there's anyone who wouldn't want to be part of your tribe. Just listening to your passion for what you do is just so infectious. How did you come up, or what does UOMA mean?
It means beautiful. So UOMA, as it is in Igbo language, UOMA, and it's spelled OMA in the actual language, means beautiful. For me, this is a beautiful tribe. It's a tribe of beautiful people. So it should actually be UOMA, which means beautiful people. But getting people to pronounce UOMA is long enough, so we shortened it for them, and that's how. So when you pronounce it phonetically, you only pronounce it UOMA, which means beautiful. It's just when you spell it, the U comes in there. So that's where I got it from. I mean, for me, it was very, very important to be authentic and to come back and make everybody speak my language, because one of the things I had to do in terms of assimilating, in able to get jobs and get promoted and get to the top in the beauty industry and just in corporate in general was changing my name. There is no, my name is Sharon Chuter. That's not a Nigerian name, is it? And so I had given up a lot of my identity to be able to fit in and get to where I got to. And part of UOMA Beauty and this journey was reclaiming all of that, and in doing that, inspiring and enabling other people to show up as their authentic self. Yes, UOMA it's weird for people to pronounce, but pronounce it. It means beautiful, and it's beautiful. And so that's where the name actually comes from.
I can definitely agree with it being beautiful, having used some of the products, from the packaging through to the actual products themselves. It really is a beautiful design and beautiful experience for people using the product. Who today is the kind of core target audience? Who's buying the products?
Everybody. And it's so interesting because it debunked a lot of things. Because when I launched this brand, and I was so proud of my cultural heritage, I shot the launch campaign in Nigeria, and it was so colorful. It was just this expression of my culture, and we called it an Afropolitan brand. One of the things I got told is it's going to alienate people. Right? It's going to feel like it's a brand for Black people by Black people. And I was like, no, it's a brand that is proudly celebrating Black culture. Right? And I'm not going to take it to the side of the brand just to make other people feel comfortable with it. And it was so interesting that when we launched, it was just, it's so evenly split in terms of, we have everybody buying the brand. We have a lot of, actually quite a majority of my shoppers are actually white women, right? And so it's been so interesting, we have, Asian shoppers, Latina shoppers. We're hugely popular in the Middle East. That was a surprise to me. I didn't expect that, our popularity in the Middle East. And of course the Black shopper really came in and stood for us. So I think, one of the things that the brand has been able to do is really take a brand that no matter how the industry tried to classify it as an ethnic brand, because that's what happens. If you're a brand and you're inclusive and you happen to be a Black founder, you usually get classified as an ethnic brand. You are just a Black brand for Black people, and that's the only space you can operate in. Whereas there's nothing bad about that, which is what I told people when they were like, oh my God, this is what's going to happen to the brand. And I was like, if that happens, there's nothing wrong with it, right? It's really a movement, because anybody who relates to that beautiful lifestyle, anybody who has that edginess, that rebelliousness, anybody who's felt like, other people don't get me, or this is the world to which I want to be part of. I no longer want to be part of this monolithic world. I truly want to be, and that's why we say we're not multicultural beauty, we're beauty, because what we do here and what we celebrate here is how beauty should be. And the other brands will not be inclusive, should be called monocultural beauty brands, as opposed to calling me a multicultural beauty brand like it's a whole new category.
But I think you've made the point though. You welcome everyone with an amazing product, so why wouldn't everyone use it? And I think that's, for me, sounds like common sense.
Yes. Exactly. I mean, it's common sense, but unfortunately, it's just where the world is. There is so much unconscious bias, and that's why I love our tribe. We open it up to conversations. I mean, I've opened this up publicly with my tribe to have a conversation in terms of why is there a barrier, for instance, white women buying from Black-owned businesses? And there was a lot of honesty and a lot of vulnerability, and people came out and were like, a lot of women are like, we don't even think about it that way or process it. It's just, we've just somehow, when I see that, all I see is it's not built for me. It's not meant for me, and I walk away. It's not a hate, it's not a prejudice, it's just that it's just how it doesn't make sense, but it's just this, that's why we call it unconscious bias. And like I said, yes, it's common sense. Yes, having a brand and you being a Black woman running a brand should not mean that you get relegated to the ethnic aisle, you know what I mean? But that's literally what happens. But I'm so happy and excited that through UOMA Beauty and what we're building and what I'm building right now, it is paving a way to change that and really change mindsets, especially with us tackling those conversations head on. It is literally changing mindset, which is going to bring about positive change.
You touched already on your passion around inclusivity and diversity, but I'd love to understand a little bit how the beauty part of your journey came to happen. Where did the passion for the beauty industry begin?
Well, I never thought I was going to go into the beauty business. I didn't really even know much about it. At the start of my life, I was an academic. I finished university. I got into university at a crazy young age. And so I was down the path. I first was going to be a pilot, and then aeronautical engineering was what I thought I was going to do it myself. And then I sort of got to a point where I had this kind of crisis in myself, because I have something that's really weird, right? In that I'm extremely academic, but I'm also extremely creative. And when you have those two things, people sort of want to put you in a box of either or. I encountered beauty by accident. And long story short, I ended up bringing Revlon to Nigeria. That was my experience in business for the first time. And I realized something. I found something really unique in the beauty industry. It was actually a place where I could be both. Where I could be both intellectual and academic, which is the business exec side of me, but I could also be extremely creative and bring that creative passion into it. And so that was why I set off on a path into the beauty industry.
And you did stay in the beauty industry before setting up your own business for a while. So you got to, I know, quite a few board positions. It'd be great to hear your perspective, as I'm making an assumption in some cases you were the only woman of colour in the boardroom. Like, what was that like?
I don't think I've ever been in any job. I think there was only one period where I hired somebody in the field team in LVMH who was black at Benefit Cosmetics. I don't think I've ever worked any job where there has ever been another black person in the entire organization until I started running my own business. So you think about that and how sad that is. So unfortunately, it's a huge problem everywhere. And so when people keep talking about how beauty products are not inclusive, I keep telling them you're barking up the wrong tree. Go back and ask them the people they employ. How can you fix a problem you don't even understand, you know? And it's a huge problem. So, and then when you take people of color in general, it's still very, very much lacking in many, many companies that I worked for.
So then you decide to set up your own business, no easy thing to do. And when you had that moment, did you think about, I want to positively disrupt the beauty industry? Or was it, I just want to start a movement? Like, what were you thinking about as you were building the business?
Yeah, I don't think there was ever a moment in terms of thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be disruptive or whatever. I don't think anybody who ends up being a disruptor ever sets out to be a disruptor. It just happens, right? Because for me at the time, my focus was just, I cannot continue to be part of this system. That was the number one motivation. It was understanding that there was such a thing as culpability just by being complacent, which is what I was. You know, when you are working with an organization or when you're purchasing from a brand and you don't align with their values and you know they can be doing better, people still don't understand that by just sitting there doing nothing, you may not be an active part to go like, oh, I'm strategizing not to hire black people or to make black products. But by me sitting there and getting a paycheck, I'm enabling that system to continue. Is the reason why racism has gone on for so long. Even when I left LVMH, to be honest, I didn't even have the concept of UOMA Beauty. I just knew that I wanted to do something that is going to celebrate authenticity, is going to be about celebrating people who've been left out. What the actual business of it, I didn't actually know at the time. I mean, at a point I wanted to go into fashion. At a point I wanted to go into retail. You know, so I knew sort of the end goal, and that's why I go like, this is not a business, it's a movement, because it was always the goal of it was always, hey, I want to bring people together. I want to celebrate them. I want to normalize the marginalized. You know, these were all the goals I wanted to do, and the how I just wasn't sure of, and the how ended up being UOMA Beauty, right?
Hear, hear. I assume the self-doubt didn't last for very long, because quite early on in your journey, you got Selfridges, which is obviously a large UK retailer, to start stocking the products. I mean, how did that come about? And that must have felt amazing.
Well, it felt crazy, to be honest, because firstly, but there was so many craziness building up to this, right? So I get this concept, I'm still working on it. You know, I decided on UOMA Beauty in December 2017, which is when I registered the UK business. But people will note the US business wasn't registered till August 2018. Because at the time, I didn't think any retailer, I mean, you don't launch a brand into retail, right? There's only very few brands who've ever done that, you know, Milk Cosmetics being one of them. There are only very few times where retailers literally launch brands from the scratch. The whole concept of business is you go try it, you go test the model, and once you've worked on the model and it works, you scale into retail. You don't start in retail. And so for me, I didn't think I was going to be one of the few that was going to start in retail, but it doesn't stop me from trying, right? And one of the things I always tell people about my life is that I always show up. That's the thing. You know, I will no matter what's going on, my big philosophy in life is show up. Even when all hope is lost, everything, I will still wake up, have that shower, and I will still show up, you know, because you never know what could happen. And this is always what turns my life around, right? So in April 2018, I decided, hey, I'm going to go to this conference in Florida. It was a CEO conference here in America. I knew it was going to be awful because, you know, beauty is a very incestuous industry. I had not come from beauty in America. So people will even think that because I came from beauty in another market, at least I will feel at home in that room. I knew nobody was going to talk to me because, you know, to be honest, you've left LVMH now. So you're ex-LVMH, you're no longer valuable to anybody. And so I turned up and it was exactly that. It was the coldest room I'd ever walked into. You know, once again, I was right at the edge. looking at everybody else. And I always go, that's always my advantage, being on the edge and being an outsider, because it gives you perspective of the whole room, you know. But long story short, from that conference was how I was feeling left out. You know, nobody wanted to talk to me. So I was like, you know what, F it. I paid money to come here, so I'm going to get pissed. I'm just going to go in to the dining hall, drink as much alcohol as I can find, and just have an effing great night, because I'm here and I'm just gonna use it. So I walk up to this random table to go get pissed, sit there. They're all sitting talking. I just wanted the wine to keep coming. Turns out the people on that table were the chief merchandise officer of Ulta and the two vice presidents of merchants there. I didn't know this. I was just doing what I do best, which is just going on about how the industry is not inclusive and and they were like, what are you gonna do about it? I'm like, oh, me? I'm like setting up this brand and it's gonna blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I come out of there and they're like, we must meet you. You must come present to us. 2 months later, I was in their office presenting to them. 2 weeks later, I had a contract from Ulta saying, we want you to launching us. So this was like crazy, y'all. It's like, okay, I've gone from literally, I don't know what I'm doing, to, okay, you know, and I was just making stock. I didn't know what I was going to do with it at the time. I just knew retailers are going to want it, right? Okay, so now Ulta says we want it. So I'm like, great, let's go with this. Let's go crazy. A friend of mine, Fumi Feto, she's just phenomenal, just a powerhouse in the UK. I actually met Fumi that year, and she just really took it upon herself that I love your mission. Your mission is something that I've never seen before. Everybody's talking about inclusivity, and she actually said to me, what you're doing right now, I think it cheapens it to even call it inclusivity, right? So she was the one who introduced me to Selfridges. And so for me, I just wanted to go step in front of them to just go, hey, at least you know who I am, because obviously getting into the department store, I mean, I'd managed that channel enough to know it. It's not easy. Somebody has to leave. It's not like there's empty space in department stores. Department stores don't launch new brands because of the capital investment it takes to launch in a department store and how complicated it is. So I knew the Selfridges were doing a redesign of their store sometime in 2020, 2021. Of the Oxford Streets. I was like, I'm going to put my hand in there so they know I'm there. So we meet with them, and then they come back to me. And this was December, by the way. My brand launched in April 2019. And they said, you know what? We're going to take the brand, and we want you to launch it at launch with us. And I was like, thinking I must have heard wrong.
One question I'm really keen to ask you is, you started a movement, you are, by what you describe yourself, very in control of the business, all aspects of it. But as you scale, does it worry you? How do you keep, I suppose, the essence of what you're doing and those values if you can't be in control of all aspects of it?
Yeah, I think it's all about people, right? You have to have the right people. Succession planning is extremely important. And for me, you know, that's been like even my founding team and a lot of the team, I've circled through people, and now I found a core, you know, and a core of people who are aligned. They stayed. I mean, we've gone through hell and back this year, and we were joking and laughing about it because the other day we were doing something and somebody was trying to do it, and I said, oh no, don't do it. No, I can't have anybody resign on me this time of the year. And they all burst out laughing, go like, Sharon, everybody who was going to resign has resigned. You know, everybody who's here is here because we're ride or die. Like, there is nothing that is going to happen to actually shake us from that. And I think there is a beauty in that. And these are the people who are going to carry this legacy forward. These people who are here, who are doing it dirty, who were, you know, when COVID happened, they were packing stock from their homes, not because I asked them to, because they volunteered to, you know. So there is this form of camaraderie in my team, and that is so strong. And it's for me not to fall into that temptation. And this is what I manage even so well with my investors, because a lot of times they want the person with the resume. They want the person from L'Oreal with 30 years experience. And I caution that to go, I would choose any day a person with the right value set, even though it means my business is going to grow slower. It just means that the values will always be number one before the profit, before anything else.
I have to say, your passion and energy and actually bravery is infectious. I mean, I just have to end on this question, really. You know, where does it all come from? How do you keep going?
I don't know. I mean, you know, that's the thing. When you're born a certain way, you're born a certain way, right? And it, you know, for other people, it might sound like it's brave or whatever. For me, it doesn't feel that way. It's just what comes to my head. You know, I think there's a little bit of naivety in there. There's a lot, not in a little bit, a lot of naivety, because when I do things, I don't think I think about the consequences. To be honest, because if I thought about consequences, I wouldn't have quit my job. You know, I wouldn't have gone and done a challenge, you know, to the same ecosystem to which I exist. I have only one retailer in America, Ulta, and I didn't even give them a heads up. I didn't even speak to them, and I knew if they didn't pull up, I was pulling out of Ulta the next Monday, right? So I think there's a little bit of naivety in there, but I think one of the things that has always been a common theme in my life from when I was a kid till today is the speaking up. And when I was a kid, I used to get beat up. I mean, every bone in my body got broken, right? My jaw, my ribs, everything, because I was loud. I was always that person to speak up. You know, Yoruba people would say sorosoke, which is speak louder, right? So I've always been that speak louder person, and it didn't do me a lot of favors growing up. It didn't do me a lot of favors in my early corporate life. And it's just so good now that I found a use for it. I don't think about, hey, what you're doing can endanger your life, because a lot of the things I do have posed very serious risk and threat to my life. I mean, right now I've had to be more security conscious than I've ever been in my life because of the topics I've been talking about, and having all these hate groups pop up, targeting me, you know, white supremacists trying to hunt me down and find me, and all of those kind of things. For a lot of people, it scares them and makes you want to run. For me, it doesn't, and that's why I go like, something is not okay up there, like wires they should touch, I'm sure are not touching, because I see those things and my mom is freaked out and like, you should stop what you're doing. And for me, it just makes me go like, actually, no, it means that if you're so keen to now terminate me because I must be, it must be working. What I'm doing must be working. So I should continue. I should not stop this. And you might take me out, but you cannot silence an entire movement. And that's the whole point.
Well, I have to say we are very fortunate to have you in our world. I want to say a huge thank you. I think I have very rarely heard such a successful business leader, whether you like it or not, you are, talk about their business as a movement. I'm definitely joining your tribe.
Yay!
And I am pretty positive there's a lot more to come from the world of Sharon Chuter. So thank you again for everything you're doing.
Thank you for having me and using your platform. Thank you so much.
Well, you're a true positive disruptor, so we can only thank you for that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.